Have you ever wondered what a direct instruction manual from the divine would actually look like? Well, we're about to dive into one of history's most detailed religious manuals, the first chapter of the book of Leviticus. It's an absolutely intricate and ancient blueprint for sacrifice. And here it is. We're going straight to the source, the text itself. This chapter lays out in just meticulous detail the instructions for a very specific kind of ritual, the burnt offering. So together, we're going to break down exactly what these instructions meant and how they were carried out. So to really get this, we're going to follow the text's own structure. First, we'll ask the big question: why were these offerings even made? Then we'll explore the three different types of animal sacrifice, from the herd, the flock, and, of course, birds. And finally, we'll pull it all together and look at the common threads that connect all of these ancient rituals. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty, the blood, the fire, the altar, we have to ask the most basic question of all: why? I mean, what was the ultimate point of this really complex and pretty costly ceremony? You know what's great? The text gives us a direct answer right there in verse 4. The whole purpose is atonement. This wasn't just some random act. It was a deeply symbolic ritual. It was all about mending the relationship between a person and God. That part about laying a hand on the head? That's key. It signifies a transfer, making the animal a substitute for the person making the offering. All right, let's jump into the first and honestly the most detailed example. This one really sets the pattern for all the others. We're talking about the offering of a bullock from the herd. You can think of this as the master template for the entire burnt offering process. And the process is just incredibly precise. First, the animal had to be perfect, a male without blemish. Then the person making the offering performs these two key acts. They lay a hand on its head, and then they kill it. From that point on, the priests take over. They handle the blood, sprinkling it around the altar, and then they meticulously cut the animal into pieces, arranging them on the fire so the entire thing is consumed. And this is the result. The text uses this very specific phrase over and over again: a sweet savor unto the Lord. It's describing the final state of the offering. It's been wholly given, it's been entirely consumed by the fire, and it is symbolically accepted. We'll definitely come back to this phrase. Now, let's be realistic for a second. A bullock was a very significant, very valuable animal. So that raises a pretty practical question, right? Was this ritual just for the wealthy? What was in place for people who couldn't afford something like that? Well, the text addresses this immediately by providing an alternative, an offering from the flock, so a sheep or a goat. And what's cool is that it follows the same core pattern as the bullock, but there are a few subtle yet really important variations. See how similar this is? It's still got to be a male without blemish, the blood is sprinkled, the whole animal gets burned, but notice the little differences. The text specifies it has to be killed on the side of the altar northward, and it also explicitly says to wash the internal organs and legs with water before they go on the fire. Precision was absolutely key, no matter the animal's value. Okay, so we've covered the herd and the flock, but what about the poorest members of the community? I mean, was there an option for them to take part in this absolutely central ritual of atonement? The answer is a definite yes. The final category is an offering of turtle doves or young pigeons, and this is where the procedure actually changes pretty dramatically. For this smallest offering, the priest takes on a much more direct, much more hands-on role. Yeah, in this case, the priest does pretty much everything. He kills the bird, drains the blood against the altar, gets rid of the inedible parts, and this is another one of those fascinatingly specific instructions. He splits the bird with his hands, but he doesn't divide it completely in two before putting it on the fire. Just incredible. So we've got 3 different animals and 3 slightly different procedures. Let's kind of zoom out now and look at what connects them all. What are the big unifying principles at the very heart of this burnt offering? This chart just lays it out so well. You can see this brilliant balance of consistency and adaptation. For the big animals, the offerer is the one who kills it. For the bird, the priest takes over completely. The blood is handled in a similar way for the herd and flock, but it's different for the fowl. And the way the body is divided is precise in all 3 cases, but it's scaled to the creature. So the crucial point here is that the core principles always stayed the same, even as the details were adapted. And that brings us right back around to that key phrase. Whether it was a bullock, a sheep, or a pigeon, the goal was always the same: to produce a sweet savor. And this wasn't about a literal, pleasant smell. It was a symbolic term. It was a way of saying that the ritual was performed correctly, the sacrifice was complete, and the offering was accepted. It had achieved its purpose of atonement. Look, these rituals come from a world that is so different from our own. But their intricate details reveal something really profound. This demand for perfection, combined with a tiered system that made atonement accessible to everybody, it gives us this powerful window into the past, and it leaves us with one final thought. What does all this incredible precision really tell us about that ancient human need for order, for structure, and for a clear path to the divine?